Hello and welcome back to Metal Coffee Shop Soundstage here at the Metal Building Contractors and Erectors Association meeting. We're in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm Heidi Ellsworth, and I tell you what, Metal Coffee Shop is here. We've been having so much fun listening to the seminars, walking around, talking to all of the manufacturers and service providers, everyone who's here, along with all the great contractors, erectors. I tell you what, absolutely such a great vibe to this show. We're just really excited to be here. But as we always know, we love technology, and technology is really what is making all construction get to that next level that we need to be in for processes, labor shortage, and everything else. So we found some experts who we've actually been visiting with for a little while now, and we found them here at the show, and we said, hey, come by and let's have a little chat. And that is John with ACT Building Systems and Andy with Easy Building Designer. I want to make sure I say it right. Gentlemen, welcome to the soundstage.
Thank you,
Thanks, Heidi. It's good to be here.
So fun to have you. So let's start with some introductions. So John, if you could start, introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself and about your company.
Sure. ACT Building Systems, I've been with the company for about 2 years now. We've been in the States for about 25 years. I say that because what we do is we create software that designs cold form steel buildings, where we take what's traditionally seen as like secondary framing members, you bolt them together, screw together, no welding, and you make the main frame out of a building that way.
Okay.
So this is how they build. If you drive around in Australia, you won't see post frame. You're just going to see cold form buildings everywhere.
Okay.
So they were designed originally to stand up to the cyclonic winds in Australia, so it's a perfect translation to Florida hurricane winds. I was in a condo, a barn dominium actually last spring, 170 mile an hour winds right there on the Florida coast.
Wow.
All steel, and beautiful building as well.
Yeah.
So, but we design the software. Basically what we do is we partner with manufacturers, we put their components into our system, and then they give the software to their customers. We get paid only when they get paid, so when they get ready to purchase a building, the engineering, that's when we get our money. But essentially customers get it out of the box, they can design, they can quote, they can order engineering, and then they can order their building all from the software platform.
So let me get this straight. I want to make sure I have this. That really as a building owner, or is it more an architect, or is it a consumer who is using the software to design what they want? They're picking and choosing, right? I've seen the demos; they're pretty cool.
Yeah, I would say it's going to be building dealers, brokers. It could be erectors.
Yeah.
It's quite a mix.
Yeah.
And we actually have tied in with the software. We have an online tool that everybody who gets the software gets, where their consumers can go in. They can on the website.
Right.
They can play around with it. They can design their building. They can change their colors. The quote request gets sent right to that dealer, that broker, that erector, whomever that is. They can open it up in the software, and very quickly they can create a quote. They can send it back to the customer with pricing.
That is awesome. I have to tell you, one of our biggest most popular, I would say, is whenever we do anything about visualizers on any of our sites. But I have to tell you, this is steroids, right? This is not just a visualizer, but you get some of that element of being able to see what's going on and then create the whole bid and the whole building.
Right,
So
exactly.
that is so cool. Okay, Andy. Please introduce yourself and tell us about your product.
Yeah, so I'm Andy. I'm from Easy Building Designer. Easy Building Designer is a 3D visualization tool that you mentioned, Heidi, that's very popular these days, and you put it on your website. And the idea is that your customers can use it to design their own buildings, change their colors, move doors around, adjust roof pitch and the size of lean-tos, these other kind of openings and entry points, and they can submit those custom designs to the builder directly.
That is so cool. So this is not just for, we have metal buildings. Of course, we have these beautiful metal buildings. Then we have all these barn dominiums that are so popular. So homeowners can go and onto a contractor's
absolutely.
site and start playing with their barn dominium.
Yeah, so our customers are people who sell buildings or build buildings, but the people who use our software are the consumers, the people who want to design their own barn dominiums or their own workshops, their own garages, barns, these kinds of things.
I have about 3 or 4 people who work at the coffee shops who are looking at barn dominiums. I'm sending them their way. Yeah, they can play. Well, what are you seeing around contractors, erectors with the adoption of your technologies, and how, you said 25 years in the States. What have you seen with the growth of them really embracing and using technology?
It's really kind of organically grown, especially the last several years. People are really kind of catching on to it. And our whole thing is we make cold form buildings easy. Every aspect of it, from gathering the leads to creating the quotes to getting the engineering. It's a constant refinement process of making the software better and also improving the engineering. Later on this year, we're going to roll out in our software where you can do a wraparound porch on a steel building with no custom engineering. We've also recently rolled out to, we call it express engineering.
Yeah.
And in 25 states now in the United States, you order your engineering and 5 minutes later you have stamped plans in your email box. So it's
Wow.
ready to go to the next step, whether you're going to go and get, have an architect bring it up to code for a residential building, because again, we just designed the shell
Yeah.
and engineer for the shell, but, or whether you're going to go and take that, to your code boards and get it approved for construction. 5 minutes and you've got your plans
And you've got
in
your
your hands.
things going. And so that's what we've seen in the sub-trades. The adoption of technology is really differentiating companies. And we have a number of contractors out there who are doing exactly what you're talking about, Andy, with having people come to their website and having some sort of visualizer, having some sort of quick quote, different things. What are you seeing with them adopting this type of marketing on their websites?
The growth of the digital platform, of course, in this space has been phenomenal over the last 5 to 10 years, and there's still a lot more room. Like a lot of these construction organisations, these erectors, are still growing into this space, building their digital presence, and realising how much advantage this digital presence can give them in that space. Like your website never sleeps. Customers can go to your website after hours. They can design their own buildings. They can design a building, get distracted by something else, come back to it later, and keep on going. And so when you wake up in the morning, you can wake up to have 3, 4, 5, 10 quotes, requests already waiting for you that have come in while you're not working.
Right. And that's the part. And I think it's about meeting your customers where they're at, right?
And giving them ownership of the process too.
Yeah.
Otherwise, traditionally the process would be that they would phone up and you'd have a conversation back and forth about what kind of building they're looking for, what kind of colours they want, what kind of door sizes they need, these kinds of things. The customer, using a tool like ours, they can submit all this stuff to you beforehand. They get ownership over that creative process.
Yeah.
They get to see it, they get to manipulate it, and by the time they've gone through that process of designing that building, submitting it to you, maybe they've spent 20 minutes, half an hour, 40 minutes, designing that process and creating that kind of investment in themselves in the process. And so when they submit that lead to you, they're a lot more...
It's a hot lead.
Yeah, they demonstrate a lot more willingness to talk to you, interest, right?
Yeah. And I think just with the popularity of metal overall and metal buildings, and barnuminiums, I know they're made with a lot of different materials, but really we're seeing so much of that go to metal. And to your point, being able to have the cold form with the, really that performance. We're seeing those kind of wins everywhere in the United States.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy right now.
There's a lot. I've done a lot of research the last couple months too on what insurance companies are looking for.
Yeah.
And I was in another barn dominium in Payson, Arizona, 7,000 feet above sea level on a bluff. And when he took his initial plans, which was going to be for a wood building, to local boards and the insurance company laughed at him and said, "We're not insuring that. You're 40 minutes away, up a dirt road from a fire station." But the only way he could build was with steel.
With steel.
You have the advantage of the fire resistance, you have the advantage of the mold and the termites and water damage.
Yeah.
It's just a better product and built to last.
And one of the things I've been really talking to a lot of contractors and erectors about is they can have it up in 4 to 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. So now that's not the inside, that's not all plumbing and everything else, but to be watertight in that kind of time frame really is a benefit for homeowners who are, and especially we're seeing a lot of young people who are like, I'm going to get a piece of property and see what I can put together a little bit different.
Yeah, and they're fairly easy to build if you do it yourself, and there's more contractors coming on board. I'll tell you, we've got a building going up very close to where I am in a few weeks, and we're going to be creating new training videos for erectors who want to learn how to do these. They're badly in need of an update, but this is a 30 by 50. It's got a second level. It's got a wraparound porch. It's got an open porch and an extra lean-to. The contractor who's coming in to do it tells me they're going to have it done and dried in 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
So,
2 weeks. So, wow. That's amazing. Yeah. And for them to be able to, the homeowner's not going into it blind, or I should say building owner, whoever, they're not going into it blind because they've had this opportunity to visit it and they really kind of know what they're going to see. I don't think they've got
plans for this building. They've got some neat plans. It's going to be a wedding chapel in the front.
Yeah.
This is a nonprofit that helps out single mothers who are trying to get a second start. So they're going to have an auto shop in the back to help them out. They're going to have some storage space as well. So it's really going to be a huge benefit for what they're doing.
So cool. Yeah, we saw the awards yesterday. I don't know if you gentlemen were in the award ceremony, but boy, some of those buildings that won awards yesterday were, I'm like, wow, they're so great. So what is some of your advice for contractors, because adopting technology is a lot of changing of processes. It's a cultural shift in your company.
First couple times you do it, you just so you can learn
manuals.
you can learn the different terminology, learn how the connections go together. Like I said, everything
Yeah.
is bolted and screwed together. We give you a construction package, the engineering drawings that all work together. We have the training videos, which are about to go through a massive update. And if you need to talk to somebody, we've got people in our support team that built these buildings for 20 years that are available to you. And there's contractors we can connect you with. We'll be glad to get on the phone with you and spend some time and kind of talk you through it. They're real believers. There's a guy in Colorado built his entire construction business out of this, and another gentleman in Arizona I know. I mean, he does everything: the plumbing, the electrical, everything. Full turnkey. There's some great people out there that are happy to get on the phone with folks and talk them through
I'll
it.
tell you, we have a roofing contractor in Bend, Oregon, who has totally shifted his business to metal buildings. And so I'm not sure exactly what kind, but he's, and so this is something that people are seeing is going to be in demand and that they're coming through. So Andy, what is some of your advice for, getting, I bet there's some people out there right now who are like, they want to add that to my website. I don't even know how to get onto my website. What's some of your advice for how easy it is and how important it is for their marketing efforts?
So many things to say. So my first bit of advice would be to embrace change. Look at your business. Where it currently is. If it's not broken, don't fix it. But if you're wanting to grow, if you're wanting to change, if you wanting to expose your company to a broader market, a broader type of demographic, you can do it through your website. Leverage your website. And our tool, unlike John's solution, our tool does red iron, cold form, as well as timber as well.
Okay.
And our tools, you can use them for a couple of things really, but first, it's a point of distinction between you and your competitors. Like if your competitor isn't using a tool like this and you are, that's a point. It's a way you can stand out to them by providing the customer with that opportunity to design their own buildings. And then when they submit that quote to you, you can then call them. You know exactly what they're looking for. You probably have a good idea of the cost. You have a good idea of what the primary purpose of that building is. And so when you talk to them, that's also giving you it's giving you a hot lead, but it's also giving you that opportunity to differentiate yourself from your competitors through superior customer service.
Yeah.
Right? So that's a big thing. Providing that customer experience, that elevated customer experience, can make all the difference in this highly competitive market.
And being open to change, that is one of the best things because the consumer base, whether they're commercial or residential, are changing on how they do things.
Yeah, in fact, the industry is entirely changing. How people buy buildings is changing. Our software, like our internal data that we use to track our software, tells us that just under 70% of users are designing buildings on their phones. So they're sitting at home on the couch. They're on Facebook. They see a Facebook ad for a barndominium or a workshop or something, and they go to our software and they design a building on their phone. Like people are not. When you think about buying a building, you probably think of going into some office, having sit-down conversations over tea or coffee, and plans strewn out across the table. No, people are buying buildings from their phone these days. Their phone. Or their tablet or their laptop, and embracing that. That's where the customer is.
The times are changing.
To build off something you said earlier too, say the Easy Building Designer is an offshoot of the online designer we created to sell cold form. Some of the cold form dealers we talk to, they say if they get a lead through their online designer, it's 60% of the way sold.
Wow.
It's just the amount of time they've invested in it, the amount of ownership they've taken. They've sat there with their partner or whatever and designing and picking the colors and visualizing what it's going to look like.
Right.
So there's that much more invested. And then if you get on the phone with them, you talk to them a little bit, you find out what they're after and everything. That online designer, it really does kind of do a lot of sales for you.
It increases the closing rates.
For sure. Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, this is exciting stuff. If you could share, how do contractors, directors, anybody, future home builders, how do they get a hold of you?
Absolutely. You can go to actbuildingsystems.com. You can fill out one of the contact forms on the site, whether you're an erector, a manufacturer, a building dealer, or if you're just looking for a building, we've got contact forms for each one of those. Send us a message. We'll put you in touch with the right folks.
Okay, I love it.
Yeah, and same thing for us. We're at easybuildingdesigner.com. You can also find us on Facebook. If you're a contractor, if you're an erector, builder, you're a seller of buildings, we'd love to talk to you.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you so much
Thanks
for
so
being
much.
here today.
Great to be
This has
here.
been so great. Thank you for listening. Great stuff you didn't even know, right? You can design your next house on your phone. There we go. We will be back. We've got a lot more interviews, and we have a podcast with all-weather insulated panels coming up that's going to be live from the MBCEA show. We'll see you soon.